All right, everybody take a deep breath.
Welcome to What Have We Done, a podcast for the thinkers among us. A podcast that aims to discover the truth, not the right or wrong opinion of the masses. Topics discussed on this show might make listeners uneasy at times, but that's the point. We're heading in a bad direction, and we think we need to talk about some of this stuff.
Once again, that's our disclaimer. We are cancel proof now, so you can't do it. You can't go on Twitter and cancel us. Untouchable. So.
Absolutely. And we just want to give an extra special thanks after our first episode. We weren't sure that we'd make it to 2. No, I'm just kidding. We're here. We're happy. We had listens somehow from 6 out of 7 continents, with Antarctica being the missing one. So we're pretty...
We'll get them this time.
Yeah, right. We're pretty thrilled, though. So we don't even know how to say thank you. So in our best effort, we wanted to say to our great friends in the United Kingdom, Ta, to our friends in Romania and Kuwait, Maltmasek, our friends in Turkey, Tesakur Ederim, our friends in Canada, hey, thank you.
India, Thanyavad. France, merci beaucoup. Ireland, Garev Ma'akut. And Lebanon, Chakran.
Over in Australia, cheers, mate. Portugal, we'd like to say obrigado. Over in Nigeria, Ose. And over in the home sweet home USA, put a goddamn mask on for once in your life.
For the love of the sweetest things on earth, please.
And
please,
for all you guys,
please.
For all of you out there in those countries whose thank yous that we probably butchered pretty badly. Don't use that as an excuse to stop listening to us, please. Thank you. I don't know how to say please in all those languages, so I'm not even gonna attempt to say that.
So anyways, this is a series of 4 episodes we're working with here. This is the second of 4. They'll be released every Thursday around lunchtime on all of your favorite apps. We're on iTunes, we're on iHeartRadio, we're on Stitcher, Spotify, you name it. There's some of them we've never even heard of we're on.
Yeah, I haven't even heard of Stitcher, and apparently we're on it, so that's news to me.
Oh, that's a pretty popular one, boys. There's some that I've never even heard of, but regardless, we're appreciative. In episode 1, as you may remember, we talked about some of the early philosophers like Plato, Socrates, Francis Bacon, Martin Heidegger. Dre, do you have any updates on our search for the 6 degrees of separation between Francis and Kevin?
Actually, I admit, looking into this, I was pretty baffled by the results. 8 years ago, and I don't know who this guy is, but he did some research on the 6 literal degrees of separation between Sir Francis Bacon and Kevin Bacon. Now, I want to get him on the show. I haven't had a chance to reach out to him yet, but I trust that this is foolproof. I mean,
I think he's somewhat of an expert on it by looking at his work here.
He's an expert, and I'm kind of disappointed that I haven't reached out to him yet. I think that not only could he solve the problem with Kevin Bacon and Francis Bacon, but I think he could solve the pandemic as a whole. Back to you, Lee.
So,
I admit it.
No, I mean, I think we need to get him. That's a great idea. In episode 2, that's this one, we're gonna look at Ben Franklin, Karl Marx.
I do have faith in our listeners to count to 2.
I don't have faith in anyone to count to 2 these days, man. Which is a mindset shared by Elon Musk, who we'll talk about. And a little special treat, we're going to talk about some of the top projected tech breakthroughs of 2020, just to see what kind of scary world we're headed to.
This is going to be a controversial segment amongst conspiracy theorists.
It could be. It could be, buddy. Episode 3, we're going to look into the opposite side of the argument. So today is the positive day. Next week, we're going to really get into some of the negatives that go along with technology and, some of the dangers it's posing. But today, we figured we'd look at some good stuff first. So then finally, episode 4, we'll wrap it up. We'll kind of talk about our opinions on the matter, some more modern, up-to-date things, going on, we might discuss, see how that goes. And then in our 5th episode, we'll do a special villain or victim series. We're going to take someone who was very deeply integrated into the technological and philosophical world both, and he has some strong opinions. We'll tell you more about him when the time comes, though. Again, we have the same source for this episode. It's the Philosophy of Technology, the Technological Condition Anthology, 2nd edition by Wiley Blackwell. And we do ask if you're out there, we have a Twitter account now. It's WHWD Podcast. So if you could check that out, give us a follow, let us know you listened, what you think. And we've also got an email address if you want to just send any private comments. That's whahaveyouDonePodcast@gmail.com.
I've already sent
Or
like
criticism.
3. I've sent a lot. I've
sent the
like
most
10.
criticism out of all of us.
Bullshit,
so
dude. I've
good.
sent like 28. So 28 full criticisms.
I'm already typing my next email.
They're typing it right now. So yeah, if anyone wants to hit us up, that's where you can find us. Today, I was thinking we could look at some of the good news that's happened since last episode. Because there was kind of a big week for science, to be honest. I first saw this story. The first one, it's that after 14 years of planning and designing, scientists in France have actually began to design what they're calling basically a nuclear reactor that will mimic the sun. And so they're saying that it's not going to be a nuclear fission, which is what we currently use, which is the dangerous one that can overheat and explode. This will be a nuclear fusion reactor, so that's a much safer operation. They think it'll be up and running within the next 5 years. And while this is just a proof of concept, this technology could power up to 2 million houses for the cost of one current power plant. I'm not sure what they output, but it's definitely nowhere in that range. The other thing that's good about this is there's no waste. Nothing's being emitted into the sky. Nothing radioactive is coming out of it. So we'll see how this goes, but it's good news. If we can get nuclear fusion, that'll be exciting. Another
I'll look
video.
more into that.
Yeah, it'll be exciting, man. It's gonna, it'll really challenge some of those things we talked about in the first episode, like running out of, oil or coal and all these things. Nuclear fusion would be the answer for that, in my opinion. I mean, and it would also help slow global warming down. It'll just be the best. So another one I saw, Lancet Neurology, they showed this video of one of their patients who was a paralyzed man, completely paralyzed from the neck down, and he actually had this halo-looking exoskeleton mounted to him, and he was walking. So it was being controlled by probes that were on his brain. So it was actually using his brain signal to move his limbs again. And I mean, that's just unbelievable technology. They said there's a long way to go before it's commercially available, but it's pretty cool that people that are paralyzed will be able to walk again soon. Can't even imagine. If I stub my toe, I whine about it.
I'm whining about my toe right now. It's not even stubbed, and I'm already...
Exactly, right. I can't imagine.
This is a big deal.
Right.
Yeah, wait.
So then...
There we go. Take advantage.
Right. I mean,
the future is now.
It's happening, baby. Then the third one was a NASA launch. I mean, you can't be more excited than that, right? But so this was actually a rover going to Mars. It was sent off yesterday morning, and it's not going to arrive on Mars until late February. But it's being sent there with the sole purpose of looking for remnants of alien life. They're not saying alien, that's my word. They're looking for, just any form of life at all. But they're also sending a CO2 to oxygen converter to explore, possibly turning it into home someday, a second Earth, They're sending radars so they can scan for objects underground. They've got all kinds of cameras on this thing. It's going to record the weather, the wind, all that stuff. It says an ultraviolet and X-ray spectrometer. I assume that's just to see how dangerous it is. But so yeah, that's what I got. You guys have anything else?
Yeah, I was gonna say, created this podcast, and here we are. Technology is just blowing up in our face, like out of nowhere. And these were three. These were three like big bullet points that we looked at. But we need a name for this, for what we are describing here, because this is not our normal podcast. These are just little blips that we want to share with everybody, so that they know that, like, hey, this is what's like going on in the world, and it's great, regardless, right? Like,
Hey, don't
regardless
listen
of
to
what we're
this
going to
just
talk
if you want
about.
to feel depressed.
That's
Um,
exactly. We tentatively I was calling it good news, but I'm sure we can get
Yes,
something a
a
little more
very
creative.
creative name.
So,
Yes.
taking anything, we'll take it, we'll run with it, and if we don't like it, we'll email you back and say bad idea. Just kidding. We'll really appreciate
We'll tell you your idea was appreciated.
Hey, criticism is
appreciate
what
all
makes it.
ideas.
We wouldn't be here without criticism.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, we just want to keep everyone up to date on some of the cool stuff happening. I mean, but with that said, Jay, you want to give us a rundown of what we're going to be talking about today?
Today we're going to mainly talk about a lot of the philosophers and big idea guys who had a lot of call it positive opinions about technology, because today is a positive theme. We have a big positive theme today. So today we're going to be talking about how technological developments have been welcomed primarily because of their potential to liberate us from hunger, disease, and poverty. We celebrate technology as a source of material progress and human fulfillment. The fact that I feel like the very obvious fact that technology allows us for a higher standard of living, including but not limited to new drugs, better medical attention, improved sanitation and nutrition. It's doubled the average lifespan of the industrial nations within at least like the 1900s. I mean, the 1900s today, back before then, your average lifespan was maybe up to maybe being the 50s, 60s.
I was looking this up actually. The first recorded lifespan was like 1600, and right after that, it was like 35 years old or
My
Yeah, I
something.
mean,
goodness.
like that was back in the day, back when like apparently being like 14 was marriage age, quote unquote. And it's like you think about
Right.
like with like a you take like a modern eye to that, and it's like what?
That's yeah. That's a topic we'll be talking about in the sexuality series, no doubt about it.
Yeah, that's a big old weirdo topic. Anyway, but and the fact that technology has more or less released us from a lot of the what we call backbreaking labor in the previous ages, with the advent of machines, and a lot of the tasks that absorb a lot of people's time and energy have now been kind of overtaken by a lot of robots and stuff like that. Um, a lot of the ancient like a lot of the people's dreams of being free from famine and disease. I've Humans have slowly worked their way to like slowly kind of achieving that dream.
Yeah,
Um,
that one's kind of ironic, I guess, because we're in a pandemic. But generally
We're getting
speaking,
yeah, maybe
generally
we should
speaking,
remove
we're
that.
relatively disease and famine free, right? I mean,
I mean,
compared to every other human that
I
lived
mean,
before us.
you like. I mean, to be fair, I mean, you hear about people who catch the black plague, like the bubonic plague, and you're just like, oh, that's a thing. Like, yeah, it's a thing because like people are just like, oh, that's still a thing, and it is, but it's
Crazy.
like you're sick for a couple of days, but like in the Dark Ages, that was a death sentence. So I mean, it's kind of humorous because like you hear news stories like, oh yeah, this guy just caught the bubonic plague, and it's like, but you'll know they'll like be all right. And then
yeah.
you still
Yep.
kind of laugh because it's like really
That's
hard to do nowadays. But
that's an interesting takeaway, because now it's right now. What is it? It's right before August 2020, and it's like if you hear somebody's like getting the coronavirus, like right now we're like numb to the fact that, like, oh my god, like
Yep.
somebody has it. Well, yeah, so does everybody. It's like, well, do they? Like it's scary. But
Absolutely.
regardless, that's exactly what it is. It's the dream of a life free from famine and disease. That's what's coming, right, with this
Right.
technology.
That's the ultimate goal here.
the standard of living for low-income families in industrial societies has doubled in a generation, even though relative incomes have changed little. And I guess that's just because, I mean, with advances in technology, we can produce more with less. And that
Right.
kind of goes back to
Exactly. Yep.
I still defend my last point from the last episode where technology is all about doing more with less. I feel like that this
Bill
point kind of
Gates, he's
stands
like,
up
I'll
to it.
hire the laziest person to do way less. That ends up with way more.
And now people in developing nations look at technology as their principal source of hope. And according to MIT, these are the 2020 technological breakthroughs. I haven't had a lot of time to really kind of dive into this, but apparently these
I was
are.
thinking we could just talk about each one and see.
So
These are
what
just
is this
things that they're.
unhackable internet? What is this?
So that's a quantum-based internet, from what I understand, and it's these are, according to MIT, these are things that will be released this year. I mean, some of these might have been released already because this article's a couple months
Well,
old.
like, what defines an unhackable internet? Sorry, this is kind of like relevant to me because I'm like a software developer. Well, I've heard of quantum computing and everything like that, but I'm like,
No. This is quantum internet. It is virtually unhackable. It will require lots of new engineering and technology.
It will
Something that,
require Ant-Man.
yeah, right.
yeah, I'm like looking through this, and it sounds like
Yeah,
it's
it's
more of an
something to look
abstract.
up. I don't know. We'll do some
It's
research
more of
and
an.
come
I will
back
say
next
it's
week.
more of like an abstract about it. That's why I was like, okay, because this is the first I've actually heard about it. So, okay, so the next one is hyper personalized medicine. What is this?
So the analogy for that I was thinking is, you know how like at Moe's now they have those machines that, like the Coke machines, that you can get like any kind of damn soda you've ever dreamed of made.
Dude, those things are bae. I love
They
those.
are. Oh my.
So think of the difference between just a normal fountain machine and those. I think that's a relevant analogy for normal medicine to hyper personalized medicine. Like normally they make medicine that fits a series of things to save money, right?
And then they
It's
just base it upon dosage. But you're saying
well,
that
so
instead of
so
like,
say you have condition A, I have condition B. They make a medicine that can kind of handle both. Whereas if you got one that specifically worked for your condition and I got one that specifically worked for my condition, with no regards to anyone else, it's just for me personally. You
right?
know,
Yeah, no,
so
you
it
can't beat
it could
that.
be it would be more effective. It would probably, I don't know if it would cost more or not. I don't
It
really
would have to
understand.
because of the distribution and the manufacturing. I mean, if you're manufacturing, however many doses of, I don't know, let's just use an example. What's pretty common, like kids with ADHD and whatnot, like Adderall. Yeah, if you had, if you had a specific, now I would have to look a little bit further into it, but yeah, essentially, it costs less because you could just make it and then take however much you need, I assume, and
Oh,
then
yeah, but so it wouldn't be Adderall. They'd make one that for Dre's specific case of ADD, say, they'll give you one that works and it specifically targets the problems you're having. Whereas normal Adderall is kind of like an umbrella drug. They'd give you one that
yeah.
perfectly targeted, you might have this side effect of ADD, but not this side effect. So they'll get the one that takes care of the one you do have and not worry about the other one.
Are we there yet?
It's close. According to MIT, it's happening this year. Starting, they're figuring it out, I guess. But so next is digital money. I don't know if that's just saying the end of paper money, because I think we already have digital money pretty figured out.
I'll say like cryptocurrencies and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe they're saying the transition towards that being the predominant, although I think it already is again.
I
Cashless.
don't know if it's predominant. I mean, you can't just go to like
Well,
your
don't they say
local
only like
grocery
three
store and be like,
percent of cash of money is cash or something?
oh, I mean, if you're using like things outside of cryptocurrency, yeah, I guess. I was gonna say because like
Oh, dude, but
otherwise,
I mean, isn't a debit card digital?
I mean, true. That's why I didn't know where you're going with this. Like where
Yeah,
digital
I don't
money.
know.
I
I
thought
didn't
I
make up
immediately
this
went
list.
to
This is MIT.
cryptocurrency.
Yeah, no, but that's probably what they're referencing. That kind of
Okay, yeah,
stuff.
I was gonna say because I don't think I can just go to like my local supermarket and be like, yeah, I'd like to pay this in Bitcoin, please,
Yeah, maybe that's what it
or
is. I mean,
Dogecoin,
it's
or
only
Some
a
people
matter of
Bitcoin.
time.
incentivize
Yeah,
it. Some people are
yeah,
like,
it's
yeah,
only
you
a
can
matter
actually
of time.
pay with Bitcoin. It'll be cheaper. I'm like,
What
all right.
about
Yeah.
Dogecoin?
But so the next one's particularly interesting: anti-aging drugs. That sounds like something I do not want to be the test candidate for.
Sign me up. Sign
It's the
me
fountain
up.
of youth, buddy.
Fountain of youth. AI discovered molecules. I'm not sure exactly what that's talking about, but AI is just going to continue to discover more and more. So, I mean, I believe that. Satellite mega constellations. Like, I don't even know what some of this stuff means. Quantum supremacy. That sounds. I don't know if any kind of supremacy
Yeah, I
is
was gonna say
encouraged these
I don't know where
days.
that's going with.
Um,
Yeah.
Tiny AI. You know, size doesn't matter, as all of our girlfriends tell us. Differential privacy and climate change attribution, which I think science is still trying to convince people that it is getting warmer every year. God bless them.
It's the same people that still don't believe that you should probably wear a mask outside in
Right.
public.
Yep. But so, with that said, I think let's start talking about our first philosopher, huh? We, yeah, here we go. We're just going to dive right in. So, Karl Marx, we've all.
Woo! And here go then.
Yes,
Just
we've.
like that, I heard half of our listener base just disappear.
That's right. So, Marx, he was obviously famous for his socio-economic analysis that created the term Marxism. It was his interpretation of history and his understanding of class and social conflict, and he kind of wrote about what he thought the perfect world would be. Um, what's interesting about Marx, I think, is that no one liked him at all when he lived. Like, if you think people like him now,
They're
which
just like
you
him.
probably don't think that, right? He was hated. He literally, no one would claim him. He got kicked out of all these different countries. He was run out of Prussia in 1842, kicked out of France in 1845. Belgium disallowed him in 1848. Went back to Prussia. They kicked him out again. Then he moved to England, but they didn't even give him citizenship. They just let him live there.
It's like the antithesis of like all those motivational posters they post up on like about like how Abraham Lincoln went through like so many jobs before he was successful. Like he was like,
Right. Yep.
he was kicked out of his father's general store. No, this guy was just ran out of like 3 countries.
But he never came back. He just kept getting kicked out.
Here's the thing, dude, is it's not like he was successful after that. They said that 11 people attended his funeral, and at the time he died, they called him a drunken coward who lived his life on the run as a mooch.
Well, that sounds like the 99% of communists today. So
right. So that's irony for you, right? So Karl, as far as technology, he absolutely hated technology in the capitalist world. He knew that it was bad when it was paired with people who had money. With that said, in the communist world,
that's why communists don't have technology nor money.
Right. But I think he envisioned a world where it would just be the technology would literally be used to benefit the people, right? It would replace the work that would be done by humans to benefit everyone. He truly envisioned it different than what, I'd imagine if he saw what communism has evolved into, he would probably kill himself again.
Oh, God.
Right? But, so, John, you in the mood for a quote here?
The philosophers have only interpreted the world in various ways. The point, however, is to change it.
That's
a good
point.
I have not paid my rent. The money is due any time now. Money will come. Money come now. Just wait 5 more days. Just 5 more days. Rent come. And then Prussia, the landlord of Prussia says, no.
The boot. Hey, what's the shape of Italy?
Das Boot. But so, that's Karl Marx. He wrote the Communist Manifesto in 1848. That was his big deal. Capital was a book that was actually released in 3 parts, 2 of which were well after he died. His homeboy Frederick Engels, who had money, and Karl Marx basically rode on his coattails.
Oh, sounds like every communist that I know.
It explains a lot when you read about Karl Marx. But he had some good views on technology, I think, at least worth talking about. He said that human history began with free, productive, and creative work, but over time, due to capitalism, it was coerced and dehumanized. And
What? I don't know. I mean, I'm not a communist, so I mean, I can't understand that. So
yeah, I mean,
What if I were?
I
I would
still wouldn't
understand
understand it.
yeah, I think his struggle was that people, since they're working just to stay alive, they don't get to exercise their creative spirit. That was kind of what he said. I don't know that that's
Right.
true.
What working to live instead of living, or no, living to work instead of working to live in a way.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
that would be one way to interpret it, but I know like the goal is like kind of just to provide it at base value instead of trying to,
Right.
rewrite what
Because
he
I
said.
think
So
when you're looking at Karl Marx, you need to not, like, you can reference the communist societies that have happened since, but that's not what he was arguing for. They kind of took his idea and ran with it, right? But I think the big issue between what he proposed and what has actually happened is in what he said. There shouldn't be anyone in charge. There shouldn't be any dictator. That's the
I mean, that's like borderline. I mean, that's like borderline anarchy. I mean, that's like
kinda, but
it's just never worked.
no, it
Like, if you can
definitely has
name a
never worked.
communist country that has worked, I will
But
give you
so
all the
what he
money in my
kind of
right
said,
pocket.
he was kind of famous for saying that he knew that no one would listen to him and everyone would think he was crazy,
That's
but
why
that
11 people attended his funeral.
exactly right, absolutely. But by the time what he says is by the time capitalism works through itself, that pretty much all the money is going to be had by just a few people who don't want to work, and all the people will be there to do the work, not making enough money to live. So then, if they're not living, they can't be working.
I
But
mean,
I
he
don't know
wasn't
that he
wrong in
ever
that
envisioned
aspect. I mean, the
robots.
whole like the fact of like, where it's
Right.
like the 1%, that whole thing. But communism really isn't the answer. I mean,
Well, but
that
so what
has
he
like,
said was that communism would kind of that capitalism turns into communism on its own. That was what he said was
well, I mean,
because
given by the number of communists on Twitter, it's
the
maybe it's a
democratic
fulfilling processing.
socialists and yeah, I mean the whole
I mean,
Andrew
you can't
Yang
equate like
UBI.
democratic socialism with communism. There's a whole different. That's a whole different breed.
It is, but it's rooted in communism. But I'm not saying he made the world perfect. I'm just saying Marx.
Yeah,
I,
I was
I
gonna
think
say Marx is definitely a
he
very
had some deep
controversial
thoughts.
figure.
He had some deep thoughts, no doubt.
very deep.
Um,
He had a wife too. What was her name? Lee.
Anya Marx.
Anya
She
Marx.
We'll direct you to episode 1 for that one.
Yeah, Anya Marx. But yes, I think that's probably, that's pretty much what Karl Marx thought. He clearly had his own issues, but it's interesting. I think some of his predictions are starting to come true, and that's why I wanted to put him in here. So the next guy, one of my favorite figures from history ever, Benjamin Franklin.
Benjamin.
Why,
What a guy.
Dre? You want to tell us what he was famous for?
I didn't really know him until this podcast, but he apparently he was one of the most celebrated and influential Americans who has ever lived. I know. Is he the guy the guy in the bill, or is he the guy that invented electricity? I don't know. He's founding father of the United States of America. Um, he was proving the identity of lightning and electricity by flying a kite attached to a metal key in a thunderstorm. The inventor of the Franklin stove, the lightning rod, and bifocal glasses. Yeah, when I think of Ben Franklin, I can honestly say that electricity, kites, and glasses are probably and being bald are like the 4 things that I think
Okay,
of.
to be fair, he had like a what do you call that hairstyle where it's like bald on the top, but like mullet on the
Oh,
back.
the alleyway.
The Ben Franklin.
Is that what that one is? I was thinking a power alley. A power alley where you just have like the Larry David look, where you have it on each side, but it just goes all the way back. Maybe I'm thinking of the full blown alley, but yeah, I think we could all start rocking the Ben Franklin.
Absolutely.
But this guy was
True.
He was technological. I mean, he brought us very far. I mean,
he loved. He was the Elon Musk back in the day. That's the best comparison I could find.
Yeah.
He just loved America, loved moving technology forward, and he just wanted to see how far he could take it, you know?
He would do anything. He would get himself struck by lightning to prove that he was right. Which is that narcissistic? No. That's just that's just working, you know. That's just you're putting your life on the line for the benefit of everybody else. But I'm sure at the end of the day,
just to say I told you so, right?
Exactly. He basically said,
couldn't you see Elon Musk doing that? Like, if people aren't giving him money, he's like, fuck it, I'm going outside with a kite right now.
Ben Franklin said, honestly, look at this storm. You want to bet? How much you want to put down right now? What's the line on this? What's the money line on me going out there getting struck by lightning? Like, what is it?
$1.
And then he went out and he won, and now he's famous. I mean, he won that bet,
right?
Now he's got a whole bill printed after him.
Hell, I can record podcasts now. It's like, what the hell? It's crazy. I do have a quote. And I'm ad-libbing here, but he regrets that he might have been born so soon, right? And not in the way where like you go online and somebody's like, I was born in the wrong. I should have been a 50s baby, and I should have been listening to music from the 50s. Yeah, he wanted to see the future before his eyes, but he knew that it was too soon. And he said, and I quote, "It is impossible to imagine the height to which may be carried in 1,000 years, the power of man over matter. We may perhaps learn to deprive large masses of their gravity and give them absolute levity for the sake of easy transport. Agriculture may diminish its labor and double its produce. All diseases may be sure means be prevented or cured. Right, all diseases cured at kind of as we talked about earlier, not except even that of old age, and our lives lengthened at pleasure even beyond the antediluvian standard."
Yeah, I'm not antediluvian.
No, I can't say words. What do you think I am?
But I mean,
have IQ of like a toddler.
According to that MIT article, half of those things are happening, right? We got, agriculture has already clearly diminished its labor, and probably who knows how many times it's doubled its produce since the days of Ben Franklin.
This is Ben Franklin we're talking about. Like, you've heard of him in history books. I mean, he said verbatim,
what are these
I wish I were around in the future because all this shit would be happening, like, right in front of our eyes. And it's like, well, sorry, bro. We didn't have it back
And he
then,
did all those things. Like, if you look up the list of things Ben Franklin did, it is absolutely ludicrous. And in his free time, he's out there with a key attached to a kite. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he was like the governor of Pennsylvania. He was like, I think he ran like a fire department at one point. He's like teaching. I think he was a lawyer.
Right, dude.
He just did everything. It was absolutely
the Ben of all trades.
Yeah, he's the man. But so just sum him up real quick. He proposed that technology would have ways of dealing with the unpleasant consequences of technology. Like, he kind of said, don't worry about doing this if it's going to cause this, because we'll make a new thing that solves the that solves the problem. He saw scientific ingenuity as his greatest delight and the truest redeemer of human life. Again, he just loved science. He just wanted to move forward with humanity. He was just...
He should come back posthumously and like follow that Facebook page, that I fucking love science Facebook page.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Maybe he came back and started it. For all I know, maybe he did.
Might have. That we can only hope.
All right.
If he got reincarnated, he's Elon Musk. I'm confident of that.
I only hope so. What a
But
Chad.
right. So
Alright.
so this next guy, he's actually relatively modern.
Melvin Kranzberg.
He was known for his 6 laws of technology. So I thought we could just kind of run through these and see what we thought of them. He said technology is not good nor bad, nor is it even neutral.
Nor is it neutral. He's like a
Yeah,
radical centrist.
I mean, I don't even know that makes sense.
Yeah, he doesn't really want to take an opinion on that point. He's like, maybe it's not good, but maybe it's not bad.
It's like
maybe it's not
the South Park with
either.
the Dr. Pepper and the what were they? Not the atheists. What's the other? The people that just say I don't know.
Agnostics.
Yes, the agnostic South Park episode. Oh, that's funny. But so he says technology can have different results when introduced in different contexts or under different circumstances, right? And that makes sense. Nuclear bombs use the same technology that nuclear power plants use, right?
I like this guy. I like this Melvin Kranzberg guy.
So Melvin Kranzberg, another thing that he said was that technology comes in packages, big and
I
small.
thought it came in
Ooh.
pancakes, big and small.
Does this dude just have like a thing for just double entendres? This was the concept of a double entendre not invented in this man's time.
It absolutely was not. I think that he invented the word double entendre.
So, I mean, you can't just go say technology comes in packages big and small and then like not laugh after that.
Technology is a prime element in many public issues, but non-technical factors take precedence in technology policy decisions.
But it's interesting because I think that it follows suit with like once you have that power, you feel that you don't need to necessarily like now that you have that ability, like why share, why tell other people, why do all these
Right,
different
yeah.
things, and it's like
And that's definitely what
that's
happens.
I mean maybe not necessarily like exactly the way I stated it, but at least in some capacity, it's like, well, now I have this capability, right? And now I can use this to put me ahead against my competitors. You don't want to tell your competitors, that's just business.
Right.
And well, this was not that long ago. This was still pretty new, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this
So
guy's pretty
1986.
recent.
I mean, this isn't like
Relatively speaking, yeah.
the beginning of time, but still relevant now. I mean, he's not Plato.
Yeah, people didn't really talk about technology too much in the early that whole World War II thing.
That was bad.
Yeah, that thing.
Didn't have people feeling great about the
Couple
decisions
years,
of technology.
some bad
Don't worry,
things
we
happen.
will cover those in the negative
That's right.
section.
People saw some shit,
Marvin Kranzberg, he said, but the history of technology is the most relevant. Do you guys feel that technology history was pushed in your schooling?
No,
no,
absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't.
The cotton gin was definitely one thing. I feel like that was honestly like what comes down to it. Like if they had to come down to like the most like influential piece of technology that had like an effect on a lot of history, I would say it was definitely the cotton gin because, I mean, the Civil War happened because, I mean, a lot of it became down to the fact that the cotton gin just promoted um, the increase in cotton production that like plantations that use slavery could do. And
Quick, I just want to relate back to the previous episodes and how we had our previous episode, and we had multiple people have different thoughts on technology. So,
Yep.
right, if you take a look back, like some of them thought it was great, some of them thought it was okay, and some of them thought it was like the worst thing on the planet.
Yep.
And this guy in 1986 is saying the same thing.
Yep. 100%, man.
Very.
We need to pay attention to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what the last one's saying too. They kind of, I think this guy liked talking. He probably only needed 1 or 2 laws, but he went for 6. But that's Melvin Kranzberg. What an
Famous
appealing
guy.
name. So then we got Daniel Bell. Around the same time, the 1970s was when he had his notable work published that was called The Coming of Post-Industrial Society, A Venture in Social Forecasting. And he really studied a lot of post-industrialism. So here's another quote. I don't know that we need to go through this whole thing here, but I'll just start reading it. We'll see what sounds interesting. He says, technology, like art, is a soaring exercise of human imagination. Art is the aesthetic ordering of experience to express meanings in symbolic terms, and the reordering of nature, the qualities of space and time, in new perceptual and material form. Art is an end in itself, its values are intrinsic. Technology is the instrumental ordering of human experience with a logic of efficient means and the direction of nature to use its power for material gain. But art and technology are not separate realms walled off from each other. Art employs techne, but for its own ends. Techne, too, is a form of art that bridges culture and social structure, and in the process reshapes both. So I thought that was kind of a very wordy way of saying that, you know, technology, and you kind of think of the big companies and corporations, and then art, you kind of think of, you know, for lack of a better word, like the hippie culture and a lot of the new age movements that have been coming lately, right, are very big on art.
Oh,
And it's
absolutely. I think more people are expressing via art than anything else.
right,
Not anything else, but in general, like more people are inclined to see something that's like an artistic. People love that. I mean,
for sure.
I mean, it really comes down, like, to me, it, like, depends on the primary purpose of your invention. I mean, I can see
Right,
invention
right.
almost as a form of art, but like a lot of people take what was invented and it's like, oh, this primary purpose is suit like a need of mine versus like, oh, this is pleasurable to look at, you know? If you come at it with like a technological perspective, like where it's like, hey, this is actually a pretty clever way to solve X problem, then, you know, it appeals to you. I mean, it just really kind of depends on your mindset. Like the average layperson is like, yeah, this solves a problem. Yep, this problem
See ya.
solved. Thank you very much.
goodbye problem.
Insert invention name here. Whereas art, it's like goodbye. Like art, like if you're like a layperson going to like to a museum to like go view some artwork, it's like this appeals to
It
me,
just kind
but
of
it
looks
doesn't
cool,
like
right?
solve a problem I'm necessarily looking at. It appeals to me in a certain non technological sense, but like if you come at it, if you take a step back, like say you're a technologically minded person taking a step back, a newer invention, it's like you can kind of see the artistic direction behind it. Like it takes a degree of art to kind of understand like advances in
You need
technology,
to
if
be
that makes
creative
sense.
to be successful in technology.
Or
Yeah.
art. Yeah, they're a lot more similar than you would think.
Technology and art aren't necessarily different. Like you have to be creative to kind of understand and kind of craft
Yep.
creative solutions to a lot of people's problems, which is the whole entire
It
point of
should be.
technology. Like
Should
you
be the
wouldn't.
whole entire point. Right? It isn't necessarily. Some people are using it just for their own personal gain or, you know. But so he envisioned this post-industrial society, and he said that in this society power will be based on knowledge rather than property, and that the dominant class will be scientists, engineers, and technical experts rather than, lawyers and accountants and good speakers and pretty people. Um, and he also said that decisions will be made on rational technical grounds, and he marks it the end of ideology. So that's what he thinks is coming. He's got a very optimistic view on it. He kind of thinks that tech is just going to take over, and I think that was kind of evident. I don't know if you guys saw any of those Congress hearings with the big four horsemen of the technology.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there was a hearing with Zuckerberg, the Sundar Pichai, Bill Gates.
Oh, it's Tim Cook.
Those four met with Congress, dude, and Congress just made a fool. They had no idea what they were talking about. I mean, it was pretty embarrassing. Like these technological people are just making all the money, and they're making the decisions way faster than anyone else. So I think they're the ones that would actually push this kind of change that he's talking about. So Elon Musk is next. He is a controversial tech figure. He founded PayPal. he already had money, but that was when it really took it to the next level. Then he went on to find SpaceX, which was a hell of a jump from a debit card transaction to a space exploration company. He made Tesla. He has the Boring Company. He made the flamethrowers
It's
at
so
one
ironic.
point.
Genius. My buddy bought a flamethrower, and it works. It's
They looked
incredible.
fun. I knew that if I got one, I'd get in trouble, so I didn't.
He knew what he was doing. He was like, "Here, pay $500 for this flamethrower," and
Right.
now I'm borderline famous.
Yep.
You know?
And like he's had
but...
ideas. Like one of the ones that I heard that I thought was really fascinating was, what if we turned volcanoes into power plants and we used their extra heat and extra energy as a way to, probably boil water and spin a turbine just like we do in coal plants, and we could literally just have free
with
power.
That flow rate? With that flow rate, I don't know, but yes,
the fact that he's even thinking
he's challenging it, right? He's challenging like the capability of what we can do,
right? And
that's
so like here's a quote. This isn't actually a Musk quote. This is someone about him, but this kind of sums him up pretty good, I thought. Musk has begun to create a world where investors can buy spaceships online, private citizens can break out of orbit or create new businesses in outer space. I know. Yeah, how old do you think this guy is? He says it's a world in which families can drive across the country in electric cars charged through a network of solar-powered stations, or executives can dip across hundreds of miles in minutes, referencing the Hyperloop there, I'd imagine, without leaving the ground. It's a future that suddenly looks a lot like the one we've been promised. And in this article, it's by Travis M. Hessman in IndustryWeek.com. In the article, he kind of talks about how Musk was pissed off that we were promised this really cool future that was going to look like the Jetsons, and it was going to be fun, and there would be, all kinds of flying cars and robots and stuff. And then it wasn't there, and it's not going there. So he wants to just make it there now. So that's why I kind of like Musk in that sense. He's fun. He wants us to live in the Jetsons. He's trying to get us there. And he causes trouble. He knows how to poke the bear.
He does. And he does that very successfully, but he knows that he's better off causing a stir and a controversy than to just like play by the rules. He knows that.
Absolutely.
And that's a smart takeaway. I mean, for somebody of his magnitude, like, I don't know how he does it. Like, he tweeted a tulip the other day.
Right?
And I was like,
he just has fun with it.
I'm sorry, a rose.
Who's going to stop him? He doesn't have a boss.
Nobody.
He's not a politician. His products aren't really, like, as long as he doesn't cross any crazy boundaries, like NASA's not going to leave him. NASA needs him more than he needs NASA, probably. He could just start sending rockets on his own, yeah.
Yeah, he would be like, you know what, guys? We're done with NASA.
Yeah, he's got the goddamn rockets. Yeah.
And they would do it. They would find a way to make it happen, which
is
scary.
Or he'd start working with China or something, So here's a quote. This isn't actually too pro technology. This is kind of Elon warning us about technology. He says there certainly will be job disruption, because that's what's going to happen, is robots are going to be able to do everything better than us. I mean, all of us. I'm not sure exactly what to do about this. This is really the scariest problem to me. I'll tell you. Transport will be the first to go fully autonomous. But when I say everything, the robots will be able to do everything bar nothing. I have exposure to the most cutting-edge AI, and I think people should really be concerned by it. AI is a fundamental risk to the existence of human civilization.
Wow. Cue the beginning of a Black Mirror episode. Like, right now,
I think he just knows that shit's about to get crazy, and he's just having fun with it. That's my honest-to-God opinion. He's probably got a getaway spaceship for Mars. Ready to go.
Somebody just found like 22 new planets, I guess, and somebody was like, "Wow, this dude found 22 new planets." Like,
he's just licking his chops for a chance to go to other planets.
Oh yeah,
he's probably pissed he missed the Mars one.
I will say
that SpaceX.
This quote I think is very interesting because it's very new era. Like, if you see these other quotes from 1970 or 1986, they're very like to the point. they're very like essential to like the way that we interpret the intelligence of like the people that said the quote, right?
Right.
But this Elon Musk quote is like full of just it's almost like a cartoon. Like you're reading this and you're like, oh, there's like this is a tweet. This might be a tweet.
It might have been,
I'm not even
honestly.
kidding. This could
Yeah.
very well be a tweet that we're reading.
I don't
And
actually have where he said it written.
it, right, but there's there's like the dots, there's the commas, there's everything. It's got everything. I just think it's interesting that somebody's saying like, "Hey, watch out for AI." Like as you're reading this quote, like
Yeah.
you're. Let me put it
It's
this way:
not that they're going to take the easy jobs. They're going to take all of our jobs. That's what he's saying. He's
all
saying
of
don't
them.
think it's going to stop at the manual labor people. It's coming for you too, Suits.
You thought
You know?
manufacturing was, gonna just
Right.
implode? Yeah, well, it's everything.
All of
So,
them.
we'll
And that
leave that with y'all.
Yeah, I was gonna say that kind of leads us to our next guy we were gonna talk about, which is Ray Kurzweil, who's currently the director of engineering at Google. And have you guys heard of this guy before we did this episode? Had you heard of Ray Kurzweil?
I haven't personally. I
So
admit that that is probably my own blind ignorance, unfortunately.
no, it's he honestly Google knows who he is. Obviously they found him and thought he was a smart guy and they brought him in, but he was doing stuff well before Google. He he calls himself personally he calls himself this the Nostradamus of the digital age, um, because he makes all these predictions and most of them are accurate. He's got like an 85% prediction rate on all these different things, and that's a fun one to look up. Like we could read a couple of them here, but dude, he's got hundreds of them. Like I think there's literally a Wikipedia page for predictions made by Ray Kurzweil. And this is the guy that is in charge of Google. In charge of
he sent you to these articles. You know that, right?
Oh yeah, I mean he'll know that we're like this is in a Google Drive, our notes here. That's a little insider info. He knows that I'm talking about him right now. Or at least he could know. According to him, so clearly a valid source, an unbiased source, 89 out of 108 predictions he made were correct at the end of 09.
89
out of 108.
Hold on a second.
Dude, he's got all kinds of them.
Over how many? 108?
Yep.
That's pretty an 82.4%
yeah, that's pretty good.
Success rate. Are you kidding me?
So he said, like, here's a fun one. Between 2020 and 2050, he said phone calls will entail three-dimensional holographic images of both people. So that's kind of like a Star Wars, the holograms. And here's an interesting one. By 2020, there will be a new world government. What if by the end of the year there's a new world government?
Dude, shut the hell up. Wait, that would make him the most successful predictor since
and he
Nostradamus.
These were predictions in 1990 for those specific ones I just said. Let's see.
That's scary.
Some of the fun ones I found, he said by 2029, computers will have human level intelligence. And I think that was a pretty recent one he said that. Which is scary because he literally works at the company that's probably going to develop the human level intelligence with Google there. And then he also said that he thinks software and nanobots will cure most disease by 2030. So that's the good news, is if the coronavirus stays around,
that's what
we've only got
for.
10 more years of it, apparently. So the other thing that he's famous for is, had you guys heard of the technological singularity? It's the point where basically the point of no return where computers are officially smarter than us and we can't stop it anymore.
I had heard about this, but I'm skeptical only because, like, if we were made and then we're making technology, I'm skeptical that, like, with all the proof, I'm just skeptical that no matter what the proof is, it'll never happen. Like I keep telling myself, like, there's no way technology could
that's what we want to believe.
But I doubt it now. Maybe. I don't know.
Have you noticed that futuristic movies aren't made anymore? The only movies of the future now are all about how society's been destroyed. Have you noticed that? That's a personal thing I
That
noticed
is an
recently.
interesting takeaway.
Back in
I
the
would love
80s, in the
I,
60s, there were all kinds of future movies. They had
I'd
all
love
these
to
things dreamed
table
up.
this for the next episode personally, but we can still go. I
It's
like
no,
it.
it's that's what I mean. It's scary. But
That's
that
interesting. That's
he
probably why
has a
Black
whole
Mirror is so popular.
it's exactly.
It's
Yep.
right around the corner.
No doubt about it. And I mean that is what next episode will be, is that kind of stuff. You
Right.
know, it's that's a little teaser of it. But so hopefully, I personally recommend going. We'll put a tweet out on WHWD Pod. We'll put a tweet out and we'll link this Wikipedia page. It's pretty interesting. There's a lot of fun predictions that he's come up with here over the years. Like he says, by 2049, food will be assembled by nanomachines, and that artificial food will be indistinguishable from natural food. So like these, even if only some of these are right, he's got a lot of crazy ones. He says by 2099, computer viruses will be a major threat to humanity since intelligent beings will all be software based by then.
Wait.
Think about that, dude.
So you're telling me that I'm going to have a brain implant and basically that the virus can infect my brain implant?
Almost certainly, yeah.
Okay. That sounds about right.
Yeah, look how good we can stop viruses now.
Yeah, instead of wearing a mask, wear a wear a smaller mask that goes on the
Yeah.
probe inside of your brain that takes like 3 months to surgically insert.
The other ones he's got 2099. I'm just gonna read a couple of these off because they're fun. Human brain has been completely reverse engineered and all aspects of its functioning are understood. That's crazy.
That's
Natural human thinking possesses no advantages over computer minds. That's another one. A third one, machines have attained legal equal status with humans. Humans and machines merge in the physical and mental realms. Cybernetic brain implants enable humans to fuse their minds with AI. So that's kind of the thought. Like think like Futurama, how they've got their brains in the jar.
oh
That's almost the idea. Except it wouldn't literally be our brains. Our brains would be downloaded onto a computer, and then they'd turn us on, so we'd still be able to think.
Right, so they could still use our thoughts and basically
like
the
it wouldn't
creative
really
aspect.
be us, but it would be
right.
Yeah, right. They'd take all the human out of us and none of the soul.
Exactly. They would hold our intelligence and kind of just run with it.
Most conscious beings lack a permanent physical form. 2099.
I could see it.
That's crazy.
In the Marvel universe, they have the guy, he's like the German engineer, and they like find him in like the basement, and he's made up of like hundreds and hundreds of computers, and he's like, yeah, this whole time I've been like funding this program.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
sorry about that, but it was actually their plan the whole time. So all right, well, you're about to
Right.
explode in like
Exactly.
10 seconds, and
Yep.
you're
Yep.
just like, holy shit, like what the hell?
And
And
then
that
they
was
survive it.
yeah, and then they make it out obviously because they're the Avengers. But no spoilers here. But once you get to that part, I forget what movie it is, but yeah, it's definitely right up the alley of like what this guy's trying to predict. Like our brains are just going to be in a jar, and they're just going to turn it on. The AI is going to turn it on and be like, you know what? Jay had a really good idea. Why don't we just see what he thinks?
He said in 2099, some humans as old as the baby boomers are still alive and well.
I don't know about that. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either, but that's crazy. But I mean, this dude is made a living off making predictions that people think are bullshit, and then he gets them right. That's literally. I mean, pretty good. Should we make a betting site on Ray Kurzweil bets?
If this guy's got literally.
I mean, he's the director of engineering at Google. So if anyone knows the future of technology, it's him, man.
That's scary.
He's in there. 2029, a $1,000 computer is 1,000 times more powerful than the human brain.
I could see that. I had a friend, actually, Jay knows him. He actually sold his computer parts for like 200 Bitcoin back in the day, and then spent it all. And it was like that amount of Bitcoin would be worth. We did the math one time when we were at a bar.
Crazy.
It was like $9 million.
Jesus fucking.
And
shit.
We were just like, oh my god, poor Hammer, poor the Hammer. Yeah, that's what we used to call him, the Hammer. But man,
But so that's Kurzweil. We'll tweet something out, his predictions. It's interesting. I'd check those
Kurzweil
out.
tweets.
Kurzweil tweets, yeah. He's he's a smart dude. So our final guy, he's he's a very
He's well
pro
known.
technology guy, but he is considered a demon of many circles, I think, in the technology world.
I was just gonna mention that we I don't know. Do you guys know this guy? He's relatively famous for founding Amazon, allegedly the world's most richest man, allegedly. His name's Jeff Bezos.
He's a interesting, yeah.
I think that Jeff Bezos said one very important quote in that he said, "We're on the edge of the golden era of technology. It's probably hard to overstate how big of an impact it's going to have on society over the next 20 years." Listen to that quote and then listen to like Elon Musk, right? That quote is just like a very arbitrary, normal thing to say. Like, I agree with that, you know?
And
Like,
he is personally controlling everything. Like, how long until he has more money than everyone else combined? Like, he's going to be there soon.
mm-hmm.
I
Oh,
think he
yeah.
makes trillions per minute or something. Like, I've heard, like, the numbers they say are insane with him.
Oh, yeah. Right now, I just like tapped on my desk. Oh, my God. It's dollars, dollars, millions of dollars
So,
in that instant.
yeah, I don't know how much we need to really even say about him. We all know Jeff. He's, you know, you see his stupid bald head all over the place. But he probably owns at least one of the podcast networks you're listening to us on right now. He also owns a company called Blue Origin, which is pretty much trying to be a competitor for SpaceX. They want to take people out into international flight. And I'd assume that once we have a colony on Mars, Bezos will have Amazon deliver there within two days, because he's a lunatic. Maybe
I can
within
see it
two
happening.
years. But I'm sorry, it wouldn't be Amazon. It'd be Blue Origin. It'll a spacecraft with that stupid smile on it. It'll haunt us in our sleep.
I just see like
Freddie
literally
Mercury's
like the
lips.
F. What were the not the bombers, but they literally have like a shark mouth on the front of the aircraft.
Yep.
Like
But with
that,
the
they were like,
Amazon
this
smile.
is intimidating.
I don't know how much we need to say about him. Amazon's taken over the world. They own everything. They're not going to be stopped. They can't be stopped. He's the separation he's getting between his his wealth and the rest of everyone is just unbelievable. I mean, you guys have any thoughts on Jeffy Jeff before we wrap it up here?
My closing thoughts on Jeff is that it's unique that all these other people we've covered have very impactful and famous quotes, right? Like these people are like
Right.
the spokesperson of their
Right.
generation. And then you have Jeff Bezos, who like his famous quotes are just like, yeah, we're on the edge of a golden era. Okay, cool, Jeff, we
Yeah,
get
he's one
it.
of the
Like
least
we all
social
knew
people
that,
I've ever seen
you
in my
know?
life.
And I think that's the most interesting thing is that somebody like Jeff Bezos, who everybody thinks is like this, I don't know, prodigy existent person, he may be like everybody else, right? He may just be like every single other person.
Yep.
He's not Nostradamus. He's not this guy that runs. He's not Ray
Right.
Kurzweil, who's got like this
Google's
ability to just
interesting because
predict the
they've always
future in
brought
some
in the
way.
smart people to run their companies. There's
Right.
Larry Page and what's his face. I forget the second guy's name. They're both around, but um, they've always brought in other CEOs and stuff to keep an eye on everything. It's interesting. That's why we're not talking about
Right.
them specifically because they just make money. They're
Yep.
not the face
Rake
of the
it all in.
company like Kurzweil kind of is now. But so with that said, let's wrap things up here. This again was the second episode for our technology series. Next week we'll move to our third, which is going to be the view against technology. It's going to be people like Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, and his term leftism, which, as he somewhat predicted, has become rampant in our society, right? We're going to talk about people like Bernard Stiegler. A lot of people who just really don't believe technology is helping and they want to get rid of it in the worst way. We'll look at Jacques Ellul, and he looked at the unpredictability of technology. He kind of is afraid that once it gets moving, it's going to go and it's not going to come back. We'll talk about Alex Borgman and the device paradigm theory. He kind of thinks that technology takes the human away from the final result so far that it really affects what. So, like, here, I'll just give an example. So, we eat so much meat now because we don't have to cut the heads off all the animals that we eat. No one ever ate chicken wings before because you're not just going to cut only the arms off of your 8 chickens and fry them. But they didn't eat chicken wings until like the 60s. It's
you say that now, but you
that's
weren't
just an
there
example. So
when it
since
first
you're not
happened.
cutting the head off
That's
a cow
the origin
anymore,
of chicken
you're not
wing.
eating
They
cow.
just grabbed a
When
chicken
you
and
eat
grabbed
cow,
it and
you're
just
not
ate the
thinking
wing,
about
dude.
that headless animal that you just made.
No,
You're
I'm
just
with
thinking
you.
about how good
I'm with
Wendy's
you.
is, right? Shout out to our sponsor, Wendy's. But so that's all we got for today. We'll talk about the negative stuff next week, but for now we'll stay positive. And until next time, for Dre and Jay, I'm Lee, and have a good night. I don't have any outro at all still. Whatever, good enough.